Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this festive tech calendar special of our Azure Lean Coffee. My name is Daniel McLoughlin. I'm an Azure MVP, and I'm joined here today by several special guests, some well-known in the community, some up-and-coming stars, and we are going to be hosting a very special Lean Coffee. So for those that aren't familiar, Lean Coffee is a meeting technique to facilitate a diplomatic roundtable discussion. It's where we set our own agenda, and as a group, we vote on the topics that we'd like to discuss the most, and we tick them off, and then we move on to the next one. And we're going to see how much we can get done in about 45 minutes or so. But before we get going, very proud to introduce our special guest for this evening, starting with Mr. Karl Cooke. Over to you, Karl. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So I'm Karl Cooke. If you can see my Twitter and social handle down here somewhere, so hit me up, say hello. I'm an Azure MVP, and I work as a cloud architect for Avanade.
Very good. Thank you. Gregor?
Hi, everyone. My name's Gregor City. I'm also an Azure architect at a company called Intercept in the Netherlands, and I'm also an Azure MVP. Thanks for the invite. Much appreciated. Looking forward to it.
It's all right. It wouldn't have been very good by myself. Jamie.
Hey everybody, Jamie McGuire here, MVP in Artificial Intelligence, independent contractor and consultant.
Very good, thank you, Jamie. Keith?
Hi folks, I'm Keith Atherton. I'm a business applications MVP and I work as a solution architect in the Power Platform space.
Very good, and welcome to Rakaya.
Hi everyone, I'm Rakaya. I'm a senior DevOps engineer at version 1 and aspiring MVP, so I'm in the right room.
Yeah, I'm glad you admit to that because that's what I've been secretly trying to do for a while, so welcome to the team. Last but not least, Michael.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Durkin. I am an Azure MVP, solutions architect for Avanade, and that's not a real room because you don't want to see what's behind me. Believe me. Chaos.
Okay. Taking guesses on what's really behind Michael. Right, Karl, if you don't mind loading at the board, I should be showing my screen. So we'll have a Blue Peter moment. Here's something I prepared earlier. Here's our Azure Lean Coffee board. So the way this works is we've got 3 columns. It's a bit like a Kanban style approach. We've got to discuss, discussing, and discussed. So some of us, potentially even all of us, have been able to go on in advance and add some of our own topics to the discuss column. So these are thought-provoking ideas that we may want to discuss as a group. What we'll do first is we'll have a couple of minutes to review what we've already got. And if anyone wants the chance to add some new discussion points, they can do. After that, we'll have a quick 2-minute voting round where people will vote for the topics that they would prefer to discuss. I will sort those by the topics with the most votes, and then we'll pick them off one by one, starting with the topic that has the most. We'll have a short round of discussions. We'll see whether it goes naturally or whether it draws to a conclusion itself before moving on to the next one. So I'll move the card that we're discussing into, obviously, the discussing column. Then when we're done, I'll move it over to discussed. So it's nice, clear, and organized. And then we'll see how we go. But let's not forget, as well as the tech, let's have a bit of fun, have a bit of banter. After all, it's Christmas. So without further ado, if you've all got the board loaded up, if you wouldn't mind having a quick look at the cards. And if you've got any discussion points that you'd like to add, now's your chance. And if you feel you're good, please just give me a thumbs up and I can tick you off. So I added mine yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, and I honestly can't remember what on earth it is I've added. And as other people have gone in to add their own, completely lost. But that's going to make it all the more fun. And whilst we're doing this, my laptop has just told me that some updates have been installed. So if this whole thing, if I disappear, then I'll leave it to you.
we should put that as a discussion point on the board then. Like, how timely are updates?
If
They
you want,
always happen at the worst possible times, don't
Yep.
they?
Happened to be multiple times through live and recorded things. I think the first ever thing I did with Intercept when I was working for them, my laptop decided to do a series of updates in the middle of me talking. Laptop rebooted and I was hoofed out of the live stream. So yeah, it's not fun.
Remember the first time I started doing like live streaming and things, or it was just Teams meetings. Actually, I got a very cheap webcam off Amazon that had a dodgy USB connection, and it was a bit like a lightning storm or a crazy disco was going on as the backdrop behind me, and it was very headache-inducing for everyone on the meeting. But I quite liked it because it was a bit novel. But after a while, I got told I could expense a new one. Right, we're about approaching 2 minutes. How's everyone doing? Got a chance to have a read through? Had some points? We all good?
All good here.
Yeah? Okay, are you good?
Sorry, I was in the zone. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, well, look, I see we've already got some votes, but if you'd like to, we'll have a quick minute or so to go through and add votes for the topics that we'd like to discuss, and then I can do some sorting. So I've actually not added any of my votes, realizing that because I'm sharing my screen, you can probably see me voting. But as I can't remember the ones that I put on, it doesn't really matter. So I suppose for the sake of everyone watching this, the audience of which I totally forgot about because we're recording in advance, I should probably scroll down the cards so people can read. So I might just zoom in a bit. So let's have a look. Azure Copilot, conferences for the next year, Kubernetes and Azure, too complex. I wrote that one to specifically trigger people like you, Carl,
Me.
but more so Richard,
Yep.
who can be with us today. OpenAI, brilliant.
If we can downvote that one so Dan and I don't get into an argument, that would be good.
Whoops. Look at that.
Okay, let's all vote for that
as
then.
many as you
So
like.
let's get into an argument.
I like this. Here we go. Ooh, go on, let's give that one a go. How are we all doing? Are we all about ready with the voting?
I'm not sure if that one even needs discussion. I thought that was just a given, right?
Is this the diehard question? It just needs said and then moved on, right?
Absolutely. Discussed. There we go. That was easy.
So I hosted so me and Rakaya both work at version 1, and I hosted we've got like an internal Azure community. It's pushing nearly 300 people now, I think 250, 300 people. And we had our Azure Christmas quiz last week, and that was one of the questions. And it was actually, well, put it this way, there were some people that voted no for Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Needless to say, they no longer work for the business.
How much power you have, Dan?
Gosh.
It is now, yeah. Right, look, presuming we're all okay, I've sorted them by the topics with the most votes. So first one is in-person conferences in 2024. 2024 feels like it's a long way away, doesn't it? It's really not, which is quite terrifying. I was going to ask who added this one. I think it's maybe me, but I'll open it up to the group. What in-person conferences are we planning on attending and why? Or based on, my recent experiences, are in-person conferences perhaps coming to an end? So I've been to a few this past year. I've been to Inspire, some of the Build conferences, Ignite, and honestly, not as good as previous years. There doesn't seem to have been as many people. Certainly the swag, the giveaway seems to have died down a bit. I don't know, just didn't feel quite the same. But then again, I've not been to any other than user groups since before COVID. So maybe this is just, I don't know, things have moved on. What does everyone else think? What you're planning on going to and why, and what's your opinions? So anyone, feel free to jump in, or if you want me to pick, give me a thumbs up and I'll point you out.
I think it really depends on what you want to get out of the conference. So I've done 2 conferences this year in person, and it depends. Like the reputation of conferences of course, in the legendary conferences like Ignite and whatever, is you go with an empty suitcase and you come home with a crap load of t-shirts and stress balls and, you know, all those sorts of everyday gadgets and book holders and that sort of crap, right? That we all think we need at the time, but we don't, and they're all in the bottom drawer. But what are we going to in-person conferences for? Are we going for the sessions? Are we going for the swag? Are we going for the networking? For me, it's number 3, because the 2 conferences I went to this year, I did not attend a single session. I just sat and I just talked to people over coffee, over whatever, you know, bit of lunch, pint in the bar afterwards, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that's probably, you know, I mean, Gregor, you're a big conference goer. You do a lot of travels or conferences. You went to Experts Live this year. You've done Ignite. You've done Summit, which is coming up. Like, what's your? And I think you're a big guy around the networking as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to Ignite this year and went to 2 sessions in 2 days. So yeah, I think networking is the key thing. I want to go and meet people and then speak to them and see what they're up to and what they're building. And I think that the feeling most people get is the sessions aren't a deep enough level. They're kind of high level, because how do you pitch a session at people you don't know? So there's
maybe
100
a bit too marketing heavy too, right?
Yeah, I think for the Microsoft conferences, Build is better if you're a developer. Ignite's better if you're into that's more marketing, to be honest with you. And this year it was all AI, obviously. But I don't think I've ever went to a conference and went to loads of sessions and come out going, those sessions were brilliant. I've learned a lot. I don't think that ever happens, and I don't actually have that expectation anymore. So I go for the networking.
I get that.
Yeah,
so I also attended Envision this year. Sorry, Keith, which was absolutely packed. It was at London Excel, and it was absolutely packed. But I found that for the sessions, the keynote speeches, it was the same underlying AI message from Microsoft, but kind of regurgitated in different ways, and the value quickly washed out. Sorry, Keith, I think I spoke over you. Then off you go.
No, not at all. Thanks, Dan. I think we spoke at the same time, but yeah, there was a couple of conferences in person for me this year too, just like Michael said. So mine are a bit more Power Platform focused these days. I still use Azure as well and .NET, some other pro code, but I've kind of leaned more towards Power Platform. And there was a good one in Vegas, like the flagship Microsoft Power Platform conference. And as you mentioned, lots of AI mentions, lots of Copilot. You know, it's going more and more that way. You can even just give a sentence and it would build a Power App with the data structure and dummy data there as well. Things are getting really quite sophisticated there. But yeah, like Michael said, networking is a big part of it for me. I did also catch a lot of sessions, which maybe 50-50, but probably the true value was the networking and a lot of the content I could look up or watch on catch up or, you know, dig around in Microsoft Learn myself as well.
True. I suppose I know I've put in-person conferences, but whilst we're on the topic of networking and actually building things out, the most value I've got over this past year is from user groups. Now, Rakea, you co-organised, don't you, a user group in London somewhere?
Yeah.
And what your experiences are?
Yeah, so I co-organise a user group called London SRE, so about site reliability engineering. And yeah, we do have great topics. So we've done things like ML Ops, so SRE and ML Ops, SRE in Azure as well. So what does SRE look like in Azure? But there is, huge value on the networking side of it and just meeting people who have all sorts of ideas and all sorts of experience and getting to know more about them and also connecting people. I have, a few people who've got jobs off the back of some of those user groups. So
nice,
awesome. Good, yeah.
That's a feel-good factor. What about from you, Jamie? I know you do a lot on the AI side of things. Is there any that you've got lined up for this next year?
The main one really would be Summit next year for some of us in this call. I don't have anything earmarked as of yet. I think the Build is one of my favourites. That's probably the big one for me. So I'd say Summit and Build, but I'm keeping an eye out. Next year I want to do more travel to actually take in more events, more conferences in person. That's where I'm at with those things. I'd just be interested, like, what is everybody's favourite sort of conferences like in the last like 12, 24 months? Is it Build, Ignite, or I know we're talking about networking, but what are you guys drawn to really?
Summit for me. Definitely MVP Summit for me. That was, I went there with very low expectations, and it was off the jump. Yeah. So you'll look forward to that next year if you can go, Jamie.
I'm booked up, man. I'm booked up.
Awesome.
Everything's,
you'll enjoy that.
It'll be good to connect with some of you over there.
Yeah, sounds good. Planning on going. I've heard a lot about it. I feel like from what I've heard, there's a lot of value that you can get from that, from the sessions that Microsoft host, and obviously networking with other MVPs is good. So nice. Look, it feels like this one's naturally coming to a bit of a close. So if everyone's all right, shall we knock it over into the discussed and move on to the next one? Oh, someone just done a cheeky vote and moved Azure Copilot up. Oh, okay. I'll let you off. I mean, look, we've got Azure Copilot and Copilots and the future of the consultant. I think these two we can maybe combine into one or the same. Do we think we could start with Azure Copilot and then move on to Copilots more generally? What do we think?
Sounds good to me.
Go for it.
I mean, I'm the host. I'm going to do it anyway, but I thought I'd ask,
Drunk on power here. Look at this.
No, I think I've got Azure Copilot, but we've got, I am drunk on power. It's the pirate in me, right? Who wrote Copilots in the future of the consultant? Because I think that's quite a thought-provoking one.
That was me.
Go on. Do you want to tell us about what your thoughts are behind it?
So it's just, I mean, as more AI-driven copilots, I can't really say this sentence without using copilots in it, right? But as more AI-assisted stuff comes out to help customers, to help businesses and organizations, it was more about what does the future of the consultant look like? And is there an issue with relying too heavily on copilots when you're a consultant? And will cowboys or whatever you want to call them rely so heavily on Copilot that it would be obvious?
Yeah, good shout. Look, Jamie, I'm going to talk to you first as our resident AI expert for this. What are your thoughts?
So I'm thinking about what Karl said there. I think that I'm a pretty pragmatic guy, right? And if you're on site and you're on a client engagement and you got to fix a problem or build something for them or solve a problem, I don't think it matters too much how you get to that solution. I think regardless of whether it's conversational AI and or some other type of tooling, there's always going to be, how can I say this diplomatically? There's always going to be people that might not take advantage, but
say it blunt, Jimmy. Say it blunt.
Yeah. The big red icons flashing. But there's always going to you're always going to get people who maybe try and chance it a bit, right? But I think it's people can pick up on that, right? And you get a nose for that. You got to know the fundamentals, and sometimes you actually need to like peel away back the layers of the onion and get your hands dirty with it, whether it be YAML, JSON, or whatever, to fix a particular problem or even code. I tend to think that, like, see, even for like developers, I'm using like Copilot and ChatGPT quite a bit in my development loop, right? I don't think there's any value in being able to remember obscure syntax. There's just not. It's like you got to fix this problem, build this thing, ship it, get it out, raise the invoice, right?
Would you say?
Sorry, go on.
Would you say it's just an accelerator then? Because it's accelerating what you're already doing. But if we're talking about things like prompt engineering and what to write and what to ask these conversational copilots or AIs or whatever they're called, you've got to have some foundational knowledge at least so that you know what to ask and so that you can steer it in the right direction.
100%. 100%. Like good problem solving abilities aren't like domain specific or language specific. You can apply that across many domains. Like, you've got to be able to know what to ask to get the required output that you want. So whether that's in your writing code or whether or not you're creating like a natural language query, if you don't know the nature of the problem and the specifics or the precise inputs that are needed, then you're not going to get the outputs that's required to solve that problem. So it's leveled the playing field, definitely. I'd say that it's these tools and services in the last 12 to 24 months have definitely lowered the barrier for some, but there's always going to be a market for problem solving, right? And whether or not it's conversational AI or whatever, I don't think we get anything to worry about, really. It's an accelerator, as you say.
Yeah.
Like it. Michael, please forgive me if I got this wrong, but Mike, I'm looking at Michael here. You run a team at your place now, don't you, of consultants? How are you finding, are people using it to chance it? Do you think it's helping or hindering in any way?
So the future of the consultant, right? And Jamie made a very good point there about prompt engineering. So are we all going to become prompt engineers, where we have to specify the inputs we want exactly to get the outputs we want out of things? And I think you said it as well, Jamie, like, you use ChatGPT as part of your daily cycle because you don't have to need to remember the obscure lines of code that you need. I think we've all done it. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great tool, but yeah, it will absolutely level the playing field. 100%.
Nice. Anyone like to jump in with any thoughts on this, or shall we move on to the next one?
I've got a quick thought on this. The one thing that I don't think it's going to help with is if you have to try and learn a new programming language. I don't know if this is going to help you that much. It will help you get started, but you need to have the fundamentals, as Jamie was saying. Like, if I wanted to start learning Python, I can say, right, write me a script to do this, but I'm not really understanding how that works.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like learning to fly a plane. You can read it in a book, but the minute you get in the cockpit, you're going to really struggle.
Mm.
So there's that as well. I see a lot of people trying to learn a new language and using Copilot, and I'm like, yeah, that's only going to take you so far. So it's just a different thought process on that.
Dan, can I ask Rakaya about co-pilots and the likes of DevOps and SRE space and what you think the direction is there?
Yeah. I was actually going to talk. Well, I agree on the barrier to entry. So I think like some of the junior DevOps engineers that I've worked with have found it really helpful. I'm actually super interested in Azure Copilot and what that can do. So I haven't seen it yet, but I can see it really helping me stop getting bothered by developers and architects and other people asking me questions about Azure, because now they can ask Azure Copilot. So I think that could potentially be a big game changer, definitely in my world. And I did also want to add that second card, Copilots in the Future of the Consultant. It sounds like a movie title.
Maybe we should make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Die Hard 72. Co-pilots in the future of the consultant.
John McClane battles co-pilots.
Sentient in the cloud. Could be a thing.
Just really quickly, I was going to mention as well, some people, like you say about the acceleration that it can bring as well. Some people I've heard say, well, it is called a co-pilot because you're still the pilot. And I think Gregor's point spot on, where, if you're missing those fundamentals, the syntax is slightly off, you need to make some manual tweak that the co-pilot's just not getting, or it's not refined enough. Being able to jump in and understand what it's doing or what pattern it's using. If you dig below the surface of how it's abstracting something, that could be really valuable. Actual fact, me and Gregor and also Matt Boyd earlier today spoke to someone who created a solution. It's more in the Power Platform space, but it's along the lines of that future of the consultant, where it was they'd use the right prompts and reference material for Microsoft Learn and many other guides and thought leaders in the field of Power Platform, and said, okay, I'm building a solution for an airline. What kind of ERD and data model should I use? And it gave them that starter for 10. It wasn't something that they would use. It opens up the conversation with a customer, but it does get them that starting point of, oh, I've got the concept of fears and carriers and this and that. And it was a really good way within a minute, with the right kind of prompts, you could get that starting point as a consultant. So yeah, potentially lots of value there going forward, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I see two sides to it. So I had a colleague that I said a couple of weekends ago, he wanted to make a prototype of a web app that was calling APIs that retrieved data from a database. And it was like an Angular front end. There was some jQuery in there. I can't remember how else he'd built it. And he said almost all of it was done using ChatGPT. It just really accelerated him. It would have taken him days, if not weeks, to build something out like that from scratch. Whereas just you can't see it, but I'm closing the calendar reminder on my screen. Whereas on the flip side, I've got a friend that's learning web development, and they've been going through courses. They've been HTML, CSS, etc. And then I'm looking at this and going, well, if AI can give me all of this and can come up with a front end interface for me, I can do basic websites. What's the point? What's going to be the future of what I thought was going to be my next career move, my career track going forwards? And so, although I see this as a tool to empower people, I think it does have this perception where, okay, well, what's the point now? Maybe I move on to something else, and then we could end up with skills gaps in the market in the future. But yeah, lots of different lenses of which you could look through it.
Do you know just something you touched on there, Dan, about people learning stuff? What I would love to see out of co-pilots and these AIs or conversational AIs is for them to become almost like a sparring partner for when you're learning. So you want to learn something, and instead of doing it for you, I want to be able to bounce my learning off that thing, off the AI or the co-pilot, and have it come back to me with stuff that I can consume and learn.
Yeah.
So
Just
on
on
that real quick.
Sorry, you go, Gregor.
On you go.
All I was going to say was just building off the back of what Karl had said was I think tools and services like ChatGPT make very good pair programmers.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
You go,
use
Gregor.
it to empower you. Go on, Gregor. Yeah.
Just quickly, if you use, I don't know if you've tried GitHub Copilot Chat. I don't know if you've tried that, but you can
bits and pieces.
It writes your code and explains it and writes tests and stuff like that. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you've not tried that, definitely get onto that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Python and maybe Go are on my list to learn eventually. And I want, instead of just consuming videos and stuff, I want to be able to spar with something. In this case, a co-pilot or an AI to help me on that learning journey. And again, we're saying this word accelerate, but to accelerate that learning path, So looking forward to
it. That's a great point as well. Give me a lesson plan. Help with the education side. That's another great use case for it, I suppose.
Maybe a bit of motivation as well. Stop procrastinating, get off YouTube and get back to work. That'd be good.
If it can chase me and make me wake up and study, that would be good.
And give you motivational quotes. Yeah.
Then we're in this like Terminator and Skynet then, aren't we?
Yeah. Right. Okay. We've spent a lot of time on that one, but that was really, really good conversation. Got everyone involved. Die Hard is the best Christmas movie ever made. I can't
Agreed. Moving on.
100%.
And when they released Die Hard 72, where John McClane meets John Connor and Skynet and is battling all the co-pilots, that's going to complete the entire series for us all.
Just brings it all in a nice close. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Like it. Well, look, best Christmas movie ever, but that's a big title. We should perhaps not dwell on this, given the fact it's an Azure theme. But you can't watch it with the kids, though. Just saying. Home Alone.
Exactly.
Can we use Copilot and ask Copilot what the best Christmas movie is?
All right, then. Here we go. Or shall we ask it whether it's the best Christmas movie? Like what is the best Christmas movie, or is Die Hard the best Christmas movie?
Oh, maybe it's Die Hard. But let's give it a leading question.
Top 3 Christmas movies. See what it says.
if it likes Terminator, then we're in trouble.
I'd love it if it just came back and said yippee-ki-yay. Is there anyone here that's not seen Die Hard? Because that would be really awkward right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Why did you ask?
So then, Rakaya, what is in your mind the best Christmas movie ever made?
I'm gonna go for the whole Harry Potter series. Do they count as Christmas movies?
If you watch them at Christmas, I think they count.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredibly subjective point, right? I mean, even Bing Chat hasn't given us a definite answer. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna watch
I'll
that.
stop sitting on the fence.
Shall we just go name the top 3? Right?
I think
Happy with that?
the Die Hard movies are on Disney Plus. If anybody's looking them,
Right. Can you lend us your username and your password for that, please, Cal?
sure. I'll post it on Twitter later, right? Because I refuse to call it X, I'll just post it on Twitter.
Right. This is number 2.
Really? What's number 1?
We've got a wonder, and I'll be honest, I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. We've got Die
Wonderful
Hard,
Life,
and we've
yeah,
got
it's
Love
wonderful.
Actually. All right, Love Actually, yeah, I
Right.
suppose that's fair.
Oh, nice.
It's a
I
good one.
haven't
Alright.
been forced into Love Actually this year yet, but it'll happen.
Yet.
Yeah.
Good luck, Carl.
We all know your missus is quite active on Twitter, so if she ends up watching this, she'll have you. Oh, well, look,
Yeah.
there we go. It's up there. I think we've kind of settled that. If it's not the best one, it's certainly up there. Rakaya, I'm going to kick you off the call now. I'll say something
I thought it was a prereq. Yeah.
I didn't know. I missed the memo.
I put this one on. I know I put it on to trigger people, but I honestly feel it's glue. And I suppose this again is highly opinionated and subjective, but I look at it through the lens of either a cloud engineer or like Rakaya, like someone that works in DevOps. I think from what I know of Kubernetes now, it feels so specialist. Even just running it on Azure, never mind like vanilla Kubernetes. It just feels like it's like what JavaScript turned into after a while. There were so many different frameworks and bolt-ons. As someone that, I might want to consider learning Kubernetes, and I know I've been saying that for many years, it feels overwhelming all the different aspects to it now. And so I'm just going, well, other than being a specialist, is it just too complex to learn from a general Azure user? And again, very subjective, but come on, what do we think? And I'm going to deliberately pick Gregor because I know that you'll probably agree with me.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, I've purposely stayed away from it because I got burnt by the JavaScript world of a new framework every week. And I don't want to go down that road again of something new every week. I was at the Mark Rizovic talk with Brendan Burns when they were talking about what's the new framework that came out? Radius. And literally they deployed it to do it in about an hour, and it was like the most ridiculous, overcomplicated thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, I get the reason why it's like that, and I love the idea of recipes, but they had about 20 layers to deploy to do that. So
the shoehorning of everything, and so I'm a cloud native and Kubernetes advocate. For anybody that talks to me for longer than 5 seconds will hear about it. But I'm also really pragmatic because who's snoring? But I'm also shut up,
on a daily basis.
See, here's the fight. Listen, I'm also pragmatic in that everything doesn't need to be shoehorned into Kubernetes. There's a right place for the workload. And a to-do app, forgive me, Gregor, but a to-do app, I mean, the hell's it doing in Kubernetes in the first place? But anyway, there's a right place for the workload. And sometimes that's Kubernetes if you need all the smarts and the intelligence and the all of that extra community and foundation support. But it's not the answer to everything.
And that's nearly the problem that it has created for itself. Because when you think cloud native, you immediately think Kubernetes. And we play a little bit of a game in work, a few of us, called Kubernetes Bingo. It's like when you're designing things, like how many times can we say Kubernetes, and how many times can we try and get Kubernetes into this conversation when you can just use standard PaaS services instead, right? Is it, can you use, do we need Kubernetes? Can we put it on an app service? Can we put it in an ASE? Can we do this? Why do we need Kubernetes, right? And I appreciate, it has a use case, but it's not every use case, and it shouldn't be every use case.
So I'm looking at Rikea because I know you work in the DevOps space. I know some of the projects that you've worked on have been AKS based, but you've got your Azure knowledge and your DevOps knowledge. Like, it feels like a black hole that you could fall into to pick up and master some of this stuff. What do you think?
I think, I've got many opinions on this. I think one of our first conversations was about.
It was, yeah.
I'm going to agree with Karl and Gregor. It's super, super complicated, and you tend to need to be quite an expert to maintain it. Lots of customers are excited about it without knowing how much work actually needs to go into configuring it and maintaining it. I reckon there needs to be some kind of, do you actually need Kubernetes assessment that we just roll out to the customers before they choose it? That might be useful. But what I wanted to actually ask the room, so have people used Azure container apps? Are they the future? They're going to replace AKS? I've not used them before, but super interesting.
I don't think they'll replace AKS. They'll certainly they certainly fill a gap in the market, for that serverless, the containerized serverless sort of workload stuff, and abstracting away a lot more of that complication and that management to the platform. I for the last several months, I've been working with a software vendor for one of my clients, and that's what they're building their platform on is container apps for running short-lived sort of containerized workloads that runs with the rest of their API suite. So container apps is pretty interesting, and it already integrates with things like Dapper and I want to say Kida, but I might be lying about that. But so if you don't have the skill set and you don't need the bells and whistles and the smarts that full-blown managed Kubernetes has, then container apps is, and former colleague Richard Hooper will stop talking to me for saying this, but container apps is a compelling option.
Yeah,
I
in
found
my
the
opinion.
same as well. Yeah, I've used them on a couple of occasions, and as you say, just quick and easy to get up and running with comparatively, in my opinion. But then again, I don't have as much Kubernetes experience, so I can't compare like for like. But most things for basic web apps and things have been straightforward so far.
Mm-hmm. Jamie, have you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Greg had covered most of them though. I think use as and when if needed. I've got to tell you, I've avoided it because I've never actually needed it. But I haven't had to use it. And again, Greg had touched on it, like with the JavaScript framework. I mean, how many ways are we going to invent to render to render HTML in a web browser?
I actually stopped doing front-end development because of that.
That's ridiculous. The milk in your fridge lasts longer than some of these frameworks.
There's also a thing called KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
and that's my mantra. I try and keep it as simple as possible. So why would I want to try and make it like any harder?
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's like, the more that you introduce, and I think we'll probably all agree on this, is that the more things you introduce, the more chance of failure you have. You're introducing more potential points of failure. So 100%, man, keep it simple. The less parts, the better.
Yeah. There's a line probably that you cross when you're trying to get agility and speed to release or speed to market and automation and stuff where Kubernetes becomes compelling, right? And manage Kubernetes in this case, because vanilla Kubernetes where you're managing etcd and all of that management plane stuff yourself is just another layer of complexity again. But there is a line probably where cost and agility and stuff like that, where Kubernetes is the compelling option and is the option to pick when you're architecting a solution. But we can't shoehorn. It's like everything needs to be the cloud discussion from a year or two back. When compared to hybrid cloud and on-premises stuff, not everything needs to be Kubernetes. Just like back then, not everything needed to run in the cloud.
Good shout. Yeah. Look, mindful of time. Let's part this one. I think this is an excellent point, and I'm sure we're all going to have some opinions on it. But who was the one that wrote it?
That was me.
Brilliant. Go on. Do you want to give us your thoughts and then your opinions on it? We'll go around the room. I'm sure we've all got some.
Yeah, and I've talked about this in chats with people, in user groups, etc. before. I'm of a certain age, let's just say, where I remember when
Old
getting a certification. There you go, old. Thank you.
Getting it down back.
Takes one to know one. Where I remember when certifications were slog and you had to work hard to get them, and you had to be, and it's probably linked slightly, if you want to think about it this way, to the whole co-pilots and future of consultant thing. Okay, so we've now got open book renewals and we've now got open book exams where you can open MS Learn, you can search for your topic if a question is stumping you, and you can get the answer. As if it wasn't, I'm not going to say easy enough, but intuitive enough that there are 4 answers there. There's obviously 2 that are wrong. There's obviously 2 that are right. And it's a case of, okay, what fits here based on the knowledge you have? Yeah, that's me. And I think in general, the whole Microsoft exam ecosystem has gone a bit nuts with, we tried to get everything into AZ 104. Now we're taking everything out. We're taking identity out onto its own. We're taking AKS is gone out of AZ 104. So I'm expecting an AKS exam to pop up any day now. Yeah, that's my old man shouting at the cloud moment for this broadcast. Thank you.
But maybe drawing upon the AKS discussion from before, is it because the cloud technologies now are of a certain complexity where you should be looking things up? Yeah, move so fast. That's right. But also let's be realistic. When we're all doing our jobs, we're working hands-on tools.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, you're going to go look it up. You're going to go into a search engine or use a Copilot or chat or whatever, and you're just going to look it up, and you're more than likely going to find the answer, solve your problem, move on to the next one. That is the nature of our work now. It's not like, I dare say a few years back where you have to go find a book and look it up or whatever. And I also think that a lot of people working remotely now don't really have, if not the opportunity, then perhaps the confidence to go and ask a coworker for help, because they're not just sat over there. You can't bump into them when you're making a tea or a coffee. And so you're going to turn to things like this. That's my 2 cents.
I would agree with that. Like, I think that time is almost gone now, where, like, if you remember back to the web form days, there was a very rigid model. You knew when particular events fired for particular controls, and you could remember all that stuff, item data bound events on repeaters and grid views and data grids. But now, I think the value is in knowing where to look and filtering out all the noise and trying to find the best signals in the content that you are reading to fix a particular problem. I think that's a skill, that's a muscle that we're exercising more and more now.
Jimmy, 100%. One of the things that I often tell junior consultants or people that are wanting to get started is, learning everything's fine, but like you said, Jimmy, being able to train the muscle that is being able to research, search, find, assess, curate, and then use information is the number one skill, in my humble opinion, as a consultant. Because without that, you can't remember everything.
Agree. Yeah. Look, I think it's probably safe to say that we should turn to Gregor for something like this, who's more than likely the most certified person in this room. I mean, I don't know if there's any exams left that you haven't done, Gregor, but
So my 2 cents is I remember doing the SQL exam back in the day, and the text was like this, and then you had to scroll down to A, and the text was like this, and then B, and then it was just like going up and down. Hated that. We've got away from that, which is good. I don't know if has anyone done the Microsoft Learn assessments.
You
So if
mean
you've
the
not-
applied skills, is it? Or
Done a
Yeah,
few of
the applied
those.
skill.
Yep.
So they send you 5 emails, and you have to look at each email and then
Yeah.
go and do the thing. So I spoke to Liberty Munson, who's the girl at Microsoft who comes up with all this, and they're really popular because people want to be given a task and then go and do that task. A bit like the CKA exam where you get things you need to do. I think I would like to see exams where you get an email
that's the
pop up,
future, is it?
and it gives you a task to do, and you've got to go and do that specific task, because that's actually testing your skills of how to get something working. I don't really mind the open book.
Yeah.
I quite like the renewals because I've got 13 renewals to do, and I don't want to do 13 exam renewals. I really don't. I'm not doing that.
And pay for them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They would just start falling off.
And I think if I look at it now, the way I've asked that questions, are certifications in their current form worth it anymore? And that's going into the applied skills thing, where we want to have real world scenarios of stuff that we would need to do.
I did hear that there was an exam coming out soon to do with containers, ACA. That is going to send you an email and give you tasks to go and build.
Good.
That's
Awesome.
supposed to be coming out.
And I'd like to see multiple layers of difficulty in those, because they're sort of one layer of difficulty. Those applied skills, the 9 or 10 or whatever there is, handful of them that there is at the minute. So I'd like to see multiple difficulty levels sort of stepping up.
Fundamentals and expert.
Yeah. Like the level 1 through 4 or 500 or whatever, and it gets more difficult with maybe less information, given to you, and more that you have to go and find and do as you step up through those applied skills. At least what
was really interesting was talking to that lady, because she's like a mathematical genius, and she works out all the scores and how to do all this kind of stuff. And she realizes that they're going to have to move towards task-based stuff, because that's what people want as well.
Yeah, it feels like the applied skills is going that way. And it was interesting because I think, as you say, Cole, the first 8 or 9 that was released, there was one Power Automate one. So one within the, again, going back to the Power Platform space here. And I know a few people who took it, and within the Power Automate Designer is a co-pilot already. So you can say, build me a flow that does X and Y. And then it would not do the full thing for them, but it would give them pretty much that starting point. They would just tweak and refine. But that's what many of them would be doing in real life anyway.
Yeah.
And they were done within minutes, and it was passed, and it was all
mimics
good.
real life, which is important.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like it. Well, look, everyone, I think we've got a hard stop coming up, so we'll move this one over. So we've got a record, but I think we'll call it a day there. Thank you all very much. That was great fun. That was excellent. That was really thought-provoking. And I think the people that, hoping people watch the video when it goes live. What will it be, Gregor? Is it this Sunday we're going to release it? Sunday. So I'll send you the recording. And I think, people should find it really useful. I know I certainly did. So, thank you to Karl, Gregor, Rakaya, Keith, Jamie, and Michael. And goodbye from myself. I'm Dan McLoughlin. Thank you for watching. Wish you all the best for the festive season. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.
Cheers,
Bye.